Welcome back to Terp Trends. On this episode, we're joined by Tamara Anderson, founder of Culinary Cannabis, an all-sensory cannabis event production company sitting at the intersection of health, wellness, beauty, and culture. A registered nurse, pastry chef, and medical marijuana patient, Tamara created Culinary Cannabis to help people explore cannabis as a tool for healing, self-care, and meaningful connection. Her elevated experience brings together healthcare professionals, advocacy leaders, and culinary experts to educate, inspire, and destigmatize cannabis, all while celebrating its delicious possibilities. Tamara's mission is deeply personal. After battling chronic myeloid leukemia and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, she endured chemotherapy and radiation and saw firsthand the limits of traditional treatment. That journey sparked her passion for medical cannabis and its potential to support wellness, ease pain, and empower self-advocacy. Today, Culinary Cannabis is a leader in luxury cannabis wellness, hosting immersive pop-ups, culinary classes, and self-care retreats that unite the canna-curious and the conscious consumer alike. This is Terp Trends. Let's dive in. How are you?
I am good on this beautiful Monday morning. We're good.
We're getting through it, right? And are you east side, west side, east coast, west coast?
I'm in Southern California, so
Nice.
that's where we are.
Nice. Well, I'm on the whole other side in Philadelphia, so I'm sure you have a little
Ooh,
more sunshine
praise
than I do.
you.
Yeah. That's it. So, Tamara, if I can ask, I've been
This
doing my
episode is
reading
brought
about
to you
you, and
by
I'm digging
Waddle,
into kind of
the world's
everything you're doing,
fastest
but
and
are you
easiest
able
way
to
to
give our
review and
guests
track
kind
your
of just some
medicinal
insight
cannabis
of
products.
who you are
Waddle
and
offers
what you're doing
batch-specific
currently?
reviews, so you'll know what to stash
So
or what
I
to
always say I
trash.
am
It's
a
exclusively available
registered
for
nurse by
Pennsylvania medical
day,
cannabis
a pastry
patients.
chef by
Waddle
night,
helps you take the
and then a
guesswork out of your
cannabis
cannabis
entrepreneur
journey
24/7
and ensures
because we and
transparency with a
believe into
verified
both
product
of those
tracking.
areas
Download
into
Waddle now on
everything. So that's
iOS
kind
or
of like,
Android. That's
the amalgamation
WODL,
of me.
and take control of your
Yeah.
cannabis
And
experience today.
once you kind of get into this cannabis space, I like that you said 24/7 because it doesn't stop. As much
Hmm.
as you try to maybe put some blocks or some distance, it doesn't stop. And I think once you have that torch that you're leading, uh, you can't put it out, right? You kind of have an obligation to chase at it and do what you're doing. So let's dig into what came first, you think, pastry or being a registered nurse?
Definitely pastry. Like I've been the baker in my family since I could remember. Like we're coming up on Christmas time, right? So when I was old enough, my Christmas gift was like cookies that I would put in a tin. So I've been pastry way longer than a nurse. With
Yeah.
no aspirations as a young person to be a nurse. That was probably the last thing on my list to do, the very last, but here we are.
Yeah, and something that goes hand in hand is obviously cannabis, not only baked goods, but as we're getting to the nuances, all infused type dishes, right?
Mhm.
When did Now when you were being younger, kind of messing around baking, was cannabis in your recipes at all? Were you a consumer growing up? How did all that come into play?
So it definitely was not out of my group of like high school friends, which I'm still friends with some of them. I probably was the late bloomer when it came to like the plant, right? Because I naturally, if you ever meet me in person, I'm naturally like have a lot of energy. I'm naturally just outgoing and talkative and like not an introvert, like did cheer, did like all of, all those things. I was selling candy in the 12th grade, in the ninth grade. So I've never really, when my friends talked about what they used it for and what they needed it for, I was like, I don't need that. And I don't think that y'all want me on that. Like I'm already ZZZ. Like you want to give me something else to make, we will have a problem. So, literally, all my friends smoked and consumed. Literally, one of my good friends, I have a picture somewhere. I have to find it. I think we were in like the 10th grade, and her brother used to sell weed, and we have this a picture of like we're like 14, 15 with this big bag of like weed, all girls. I need to find that. So I was definitely like exposed to it and kind of knew what it was. Also, when my mother was younger, um, she used to smoke, so she used to have the roach clips hanging from the, the rear view mirror with the feathers on them. And like, whenever everybody came over, like they were smoking, and she used to have those little shot. Her favorite drink used to be tequila sunrise. So they used to have they look like half size beer cans of like um, tequila sunrise. Like that was her favorite drink, and smoking and enjoying, like that was her thing. So, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we knew that's what they were doing. We knew we were going to get extra cash because for whatever reason, they were much more happier than on the regular. So the first time I intentionally smoked was on my right before I graduated or the night of graduation. We went to me and all of my friends, all my little crazy friends. We took my mom's minivan because I had access to the minivan. So it's like 8 of us. Went like a mile from our house and smoked in the car. Why? We thought we would get away with smoking in the car. And we smoked in the car, and I remember we ate Taco Bell, and I was like, is this what you guys are talking about? Is this you? I'm not high. I feel fine. And if you ask my friends to this day, they're like, no, you were loaded. You were high. And I'm like, so I didn't really, do much with it after then, because I was like, it didn't have the effect I think that I was looking for, but also being a no smoker, like you probably wasn't inhaling it right. And also back then you could only get what was available. So dirt, whatever it was, you're going to take whatever you get. So, throughout the years I would smoke, but it would generally only be on occasions or at events, or I literally to this day don't know how to roll, which is bad. Or not bad, because there's alternate ways to consume, but I still don't know how to roll. But my best friend literally can be singing, breaking it down with scissors, and roll it up in joint paper, not a blunt, but in joint paper. Like that is my altar. Like, so it's so funny to have me who don't even know how to roll, and she's an expert. But I didn't need to roll. I could be like, can you roll it for me? You roll for me. So yeah, my first experience with the plant was like 17 or 18, and then just on occasion, when I hung out. And then as far as getting into like the industry side of it, it didn't happen until like I had kids, and I actually started my pastry business because we're in California. So I'm doing events for all kinds of people, and my dessert business is alcohol infused. So they would always be like, well, do you infuse cannabis? And I'm like, I know how, but no. Like, it took me so much difficulty getting licensed with alcohol. I was like, I cannot imagine what it would be like with weed. So that's kind of like, what got us started on our good journey.
Yeah, yeah, and it's such so what you do is you're kind of in both sides. I call it the yin and yang, right? We got the recreational side and we got the medicinal side. And it purely started out from you, from what it sounded like, more on that recreational side of things with your friends running around. But then you jumped in because you're a registered nurse. So did you see any type of collision when you started getting into the healthcare on that side and cannabis?
So the first time that I ever saw the plant used as an actual medicine was when I was doing clinicals while I was in nursing school.
Okay.
Because you do clinicals at, they start you off at the lowest level. So that's usually a skilled nursing facility. And I worked on the dementia and Alzheimer's unit. And they would give the patients Marinol in the morning and for lunch so that they would have an appetite, right? But I would see their cognition and their clarity mentally come back in because they were taking the Marinol. Not only were they hungry, but they were more alert and aware with like what was going on in their life. So it made me question at that time, like, how come we're not using it for like that? But this was still, daughter was like 2 or 3, so my son had to be like 7 or 8. So still didn't think about like using it medicinally. And I went to school in Colorado.
Yeah.
Still didn't think about using it medicinally or even the knowledge about it medicinally, because they also don't teach you at that time,
Right.
teach you about it in nursing school. We didn't learn about the endocannabinoid system. We didn't do any of that. I asked a lot of questions about, the Marinol and all of that and researched it on my own, but still hadn't necessarily stepped into the space. But even as a nurse, like I've always um, push people to try holistic routes first or in combination with. Like, I don't think that it should ever be excluded. And I definitely think that if you have, serious medical conditions, that you should find your practitioner. If you choose to, use plant medicine, find your practitioner that you can trust and have the honest conversations with, and let them know that what you're on and what you're using. Um, but yeah, like that was my first introduction medically wise, but still like no education or information from my instructors or in nursing book. Nope, it was not there. No information was available.
Yeah, and even so I'll do some quick things. So for listeners, Marinol was one of the first was can we say that was like a synthetic cannabinoid produced prescription that they would give kind of more on the severity cases, definitely starting in California, leading more I think down to Colorado and other states that allowed it. But that was its first cannabis's first introduction into kind of the medical scene as
Hmm.
is the easiest way to kind of put that one. Um, and unfortunately, the lack of information is still it's
Still
still
there.
kind of the same. Like I had a lot of med pros or doctors on, or I talk to a lot of them for what I do, and it's still the same. Very lack of education on their front. They maybe didn't even have a class on it growing up. Now more and more states are introducing a medical program, and they want to have a med pro staffed on their floor, so people can come in for evaluations. And that was where I kind of came into play in Pennsylvania, was walking doctors through interactions of cannabis, how to kind of prescribe it, know the patient that you're working with, and where does cannabis come into play for their lifestyle and the severities of what they're dealing with. That's kind of the scope of how I started. And it blows my mind how little information there is, even when you go into like an ER field or things like that,
Hmm.
especially with this new cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome
Hyper-emesis.
that's coming about, which I am actually diagnosed with. I've been
Mhm.
battling this for years. That could be a whole other episode, so I kind of stay off of it. But it blows my mind the lack of information that we give these med pros on the more natural side of things.
Mhm.
So when did you start believing, I guess when you started coming in contact with these individuals in that dementia ward, start realizing like the power of cannabis and how to introduce this more as a medical scene or a wellness product?
So that was in 2020, 2007. Um, but I didn't start truly researching it as a medicine or for medicinal uses until my son was 13 or 14. So it was after I graduated from, so maybe 2010, 2011, 2010.
Yeah,
Um, so I went to nursing school in Colorado. Then when I got done in Colorado, before I even had my graduation, we moved back to California. Um, and I believe he was introduced to it in seventh and eighth grade. Um, and I think the first time I caught him smoking was like in the eighth grade, right?
yeah,
Um, by the time he was 14 or 15, I grew up in the dare era, so don't smoke, it's gonna fry your brain. Don't, do all of these things. And if you're gonna do them when you get older. Um, so one time I had literally caught this boy with weed and he had like dug a hole in his sheet and stuck it up in his sheet so I couldn't. Boy, I'd flip your mattress. I'm gonna find it. Um, so I had found him some weed, but actually one day me and my daughter, I told this story a couple of times. Me and my daughter, I think she might have been 8 at the time. I went to pick her up from school and came home from school, and he got home before we did, so he was at home already. I'm calling his name, and he's not answering me. And I go upstairs. The shower is on full blast, but the shower door is open. This boy is walking back and forth in and out of the shower, telling me that the birds are singing in the trees and all of this stuff. So somebody had given him something that was late.
Oh.
So I had to take him to the emergency room. Um, they never told me what he was on because he has like they have rights once they hit like 16, like pregnancy rights and drug related or suicidal. They have rights, right? So they didn't have to necessarily tell me what it was or what happened, but he said that, he thought somebody that was his friend gave it to him. So he thought that it was safe. Um, so when he did that, I was like, okay, well, obviously you're not going to stop smoking. Like I didn't put you on punishment. I didn't took away your funds, your money. You find a way to get it done. But I need you to be able to make smart, conscious choices and decisions. And by this time we had medicinal dispensaries in the area, legal and illegal. So I was like, well, go write me a paragraph about the plant so that you'll know what to look for when you're smoking. And when he came back, he was like, which I wish I still had the article for the day because I don't think I even started my business until 3 years after this. He was like, Mom, I don't just want to smoke. He was like, I need to smoke. He was like, I needed to be able to concentrate and function in school. I needed to be able to play soccer. I needed to be able to surf. I needed to be able to ride my bike. And he was like, I need it for all of these things. And that made me start looking at the plant differently because me and my son both have a rare medical condition which our bodies don't fight off that bacteria. It's called Job syndrome. So he's always been sickly. I've always been sickly. But my son didn't like the way like morphine made him feel. So even when he had to, from the time he was maybe 6 or 7, if he had to have surgeries, he he would not take the pain medicine. He would just live through the pain. But once he got older, and he found the plant, like he would take it, for pain. So that's when I started my journey of like, well, let me see what I can find for you alternatively to use besides smoking, because I don't want you to necessarily ruin your lungs, but I also want you to be able to get the most medicinal benefit out of it. That's when I started to research like how to cook it, how to infuse it, because I was already a pastry chef, right? And
Yeah.
I'm like, but I don't want my kid to be smoking all the time. And if he needs this at school, you can't be smoking at school. So let's find like, you know, some jellies or some jam, stuff that he already liked, in order for him to consume if he needs to, like at school or into focus, or which I will probably get in trouble for. But in order for him to, to be able to function, mind you, that we had already went through him actually getting caught at school with weed and getting expelled and like all of these just things that he needed because he needed it to be able to function and to concentrate. Um, and he did pass away. It'll be coming up on 9 years next year. So he was only around for the first year of Culinary Cannabis. Mm. And if he was still here, he probably would be my partner and have his own line of like product.
Yeah.
Um, but so like my goal with even continuing doing what I'm doing, because I am in California, our restrictions as far as like events are kind of absurd and ridiculous. Um, and people are like, well, why? People ask me all the time, well, why are you still doing this? You're a nurse. You make good enough money. And I'm like, it's not, which my mentor would kill me. It's not, the brand for me is not about the money. It's about providing access and education to those that want to know it and those that possibly don't even know that they need to know the information. And meaning like not even necessarily for themselves, but if you have a child like mine, if you have an elderly person you take care of. That's like mine. If you have fibromyalgia or MS, you know what I mean? Like creating a space for them to feel comfortable enough to try things and ask questions. And in the same return, creating beautiful, luxury, sophisticated type of events. So I can invite my peers. So I can invite doctors. So I can invite nurses. So I can invite lawyers. So they not only hear about how the plant can be life changing, like from a distance, but they can physically see how it affects people and how it can enhance life. So I'm very, particular about the type of events that I produce because I want to make it a safe and comfortable place for any and everyone to come, whether you consume or you don't consume. I want you to be like, I want to go, and once you go, you'll learn, and you don't even know you're learning. But yes,
And from what I'm gathering from you, you're at like that pure, what you're bringing to the table and merging these events, it's like a pure kind of combination of like health. You have the wellness aspect. I'm sure you bring some beauty into it, and then you're going to bring the culture. And it's an all sensory event, which I think is very important to tie into, which I'm sure you'll give us a more in-depth understanding. But what is it like when you're merging these other mindset people, these other personalities that come from the registered nurse side of things, right? These highly professional medical pros and things like that. And then you're blending in the cannabis culture because they kind of go head to head. This medical industry, the pharmaceutical side of things, and then you introduce the natural and the cannabis side of things. And I know how that's mixing on the East Coast a little bit, but how was that like over on like the West side of things and getting that kind of going?
well, I think that so when I started, we'll go from this. When I started this my brand of my business, I was laid off from the job that I was working on within 6 months of starting the brand.
Okay.
Because I'm, at work, literally talking to my boss about the event, what I found, locate, because I'm excited, the location, everything, right? So within 6 months of being there, or not being there, but within 6 months of me starting my brand, I got laid off.
Yeah.
Um, and they told me that they laid me off because there was too much surfing on the computer, too much web surfing, right?
Whoa.
When they let me go, it took two people to replace me because I am extremely efficient.
Yeah.
So it took two people to replace me. So you're telling me that I have too much use, but it took two people to hire to replace me. When I started there, they had a backlog of like 1,200 claims. Within 4 months, I cleaned that up. So we were doing daily claims review versus retro review, which is how much money am I saving you? Whatever. Okay, let me go. Fine.
Yeah.
Which is actually a blessing. So that was in,
You think that was a targeted exit for you? You
yeah,
think
that was in
like when you started talking about
2015.
cannabis more to your boss, they weren't really down with that, huh?
Hmm. And I
Crazy.
knew that's what it was because when I left, my boss was in tears. I'm like, why are you crying?
Yeah.
Like, if I was why are you crying? Um, and I also don't think that maybe the conversation she was having about it with people, I don't think that she thought that they would let me go either.
Okay.
Um, so that was when I started, and I took a year off. And then my next job after that, I would do like soft touches to see if there was
Yep.
any interest in the information. Mind you, I worked at the rehab hospital in between Cedar Sinai and UCLA and around the corner from MedMen.
Okay.
So we would have patients come in with their bags of stuff from MedMen. You can't take it from them because they
Yeah.
have a medicinal, so you can't take it away from them. But I ended up, when we do rounds, I would speak and give my education as far as what I knew. So I ended up being like the resource for them to ask questions when they had patients that came in that either already had products or were even inquiring about products. And it was a rehab hospital, so even inquiring about, therapies with the plant and those kind of things. So I would lightly touch on them and let them know, what I know and what I don't know. Literally referred 3 out of the 6 doctors to the massage therapist that I worked here, and I was like, well, try them out for yourself. And then if you like them, then it's somebody you can refer your patients to if your patients ask.
Yeah.
So just doing, soft touches and seeing how they feel and where they're at. But there's also a change. Like after that, I worked for an insurance company, and we had like one of our monthly meetings. The CEO or the medical director opens it up with like a sound bath. And this is a nurse of like 40 or 50, 40 or 50 of us coming for our monthly meeting. And he opens it up with the sound bath. And then, them talking about doing aromatherapy on site for patients. So you kind of cannot deny it if patients are using it in combination with what they're using. So you need to either get on board or you're going to get left behind. And you're not going to know, and you're going to be trying to speak to your peers about the information if they're not seeking the information. So, I get messages and text messages now from previous doctors and previous nurses I work with about products or services or events or yada, yada, yada. So some of them know, some of them just know I'm educated in the plant, but some of them know like what I do. Like my ex-boss literally is the first person I went to the OG Cannabis Cafe with. We went to go have dinner. It was with her. It wasn't with anybody else. I'm like, so it's just, I think finding out who you can have the conversations with and then gauging with them. Because like I have ladies now at my job that are older than me are like, can you bring me stuff for my knees? Can you bring me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, but I need you to come to an event so you could get the full experience. But it's just dropping the nuggets. In California, you can't deny it. Like patients are coming in with their stuff into the emergency room and into the, into the rehab places. And before I got sick with cancer, I was in the ER. So that was another place I was educating because they would have people come in with CHS. And I'm like, well, you should try this and you should try that, and tell them to look this up and tell them to look that up. And so it's just like it needs to be its own separate class, because even with the limited information that we do have, they need the information because their patients are using it. So they need to be able to, give them some base education and some base information.
Yeah. Yeah. And all over the place. I mean, it's kind of wild. When you dealt with this, kind of getting fired from your job and now bouncing in and people are going to MedMan. Do you remember like what kind of a year around we were talking about for that?
So I got laid off from my job in 2015.
Okay.
Cause,
So, well,
'cause
okay, so more
pandemic.
recent than not.
Yeah,
Okay.
so in 2015, because Culinary Cannabis is 10 years old this year, so I came up with the idea and concept in 2015. Our first event was in 2016. So I took all of 2016 off and went to work in 2017. So this was 2017, 2018. So it probably took me 6 to 8 months to feel comfortable enough to like start having the conversation. Um, and then from there on out, I always have the conversation. Like my boss now, I told her I'm going back to school to get my holistic license added on to what I'm currently doing, and cannabis. And she was like, well, that's good. Cause she was like, we'll probably need a consultant at the hospital. I'm like, great. That's,
That's
that's
a
great.
that would be
You guys
amazing.
will bend with me instead of like, you got to get out of here. She's like, no, once you have everything, maybe we can start. talking about introducing that, because the area in which I live in, there are a lot of older people. Um, so it's just needed. But yeah, so it's totally like night and day going from somewhere where you're being fired to somewhere where they're like, well, maybe we'll create a whole new position for you
Yeah.
with, with this. So we shall see.
Oh, I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for them to see the value in that. It's just to hear that is awesome, especially because that's a decent recovery from what
Hmm.
just happened. And I asked the date because that's still going on today with cannabis, especially in the older generation and having to navigate on how they even find this information or bring it up to their trusted doctor. And maybe that doctor
Hmm.
doesn't even like cannabis. And now he's going to tell them or lean them a certain way. And you and I know and both have experiences that maybe they shouldn't be led that way. Maybe there is
Hmm.
a starting point to first put in place and then go from there. But I really think like nature's medicine, the cannabinoids, our endocannabinoid system, if you can start with that, I think we can weed, no pun intended, a lot of things out for individuals on that kind of medical platform that they're trying to chase. And I say just make them feel like them again. And that's
Hmm.
one thing I've experienced with this plant is, man, it can really make people feel like themselves again, which is a magical thing to see, So real quick, if you don't mind touching base, because you also went through some medical experiences. And with that, they usually do, since you were in a state, I'm assuming you're in the state when that happened, were you able to get prescribed cannabis? Is that what led you to be more of a patient over a consumer, or where does that play into everything?
So, how do I say this? So, my PCP that I've literally had him. My daughter's 23 today. So I've literally had the same PCP for 25 years. Even
Okay.
when I was out of town in Colorado, I still touched bases with him. Like he had a full head of black hair. When I met him, he didn't have no kids. He wasn't married. Now he's full gray, divorced, and got a kid in college. So I have a very open relationship with my PCP period.
Yeah.
But then like my oncologist, my urologist, nephrologist, I all let them know, that when I have a business, and I would like to incorporate plant medicine into my journey with cancer. And I was like, if you guys don't have information, that's fine. I have, she's called the Kush nurse. I have someone that you guys tell me what the plan is, that my treatment plan is. I will submit it to her, and she will get back to me with recommendations as far as like um, what type of product that I can use depending on what symptoms, as well as specific brands. Um, so they
Impressive.
were aware and they knew, and if, like I went through a time where I literally I wasn't eating at all because I had radiation to my neck. So it wiped out all my taste buds. It wiped out all my taste buds, all my saliva. So everything literally tastes like paper mache. Even water, it tastes like paper mache. So I was like, I don't have the desire to eat because everything is just I
Mush.
can't.
Yeah.
Um, so she was like, she recommended something for me to take to give me more energy and to increase my appetite, even if the food was nasty. I was like, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat. So, if they saw me losing too much weight or they saw this or that, they would be like, well, are you taking your cannabis? Which is so funny to me. Are you taking your plant medicine? Is it helping? Da, da, da. So, and I would tell them what I'm taking, literally show them what I'm making, literally gave them pamphlets and flyers of hers of like, if you have any other patients that are inquiring, this is a referral that you could potentially use. Because I was not going to be playing with my own healthcare. Like you gonna learn today. If you didn't know before, by the time we get done with me, you're gonna learn. You're gonna know. So yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. I don't play with
And
other people's lives, let alone my own life. Yeah, you gonna find out.
yeah. And do you remember like her first prescriptions to you? What did that look like?
So the first thing that she prescribed to me were these gummies. They're from a company called Rare.
Hmm.
And they do gummies, uh, infused with terpenes, but they have like specific uses for them. So they have ones for energy, ones for appetite, ones for mood, ones for sleep.
Yeah.
So I got the one
Effect-based
originally
gummies.
for hmm,
Like an effects-based gummy, basically.
an effect-based
Yeah.
gummy. So that was the first thing that she recommended to me because I wasn't smoking because I also had issues with my with breathing. So I wasn't smoking, and I also couldn't necessarily drink because I had issues with my kidneys. So she was like, "Well, try this and see if it works." So that was like the first thing and probably the biggest issue that I had besides, also having RSO. Um,
Mm.
but I did not like the way RSO made me feel. I am definitely an edibles girl, but yeah, I was like, oh, my body was like, or not my body. I think that I'm just a control freak with my thoughts. I need to know where they're going. I don't need you to take me with you where you go. So I would take RSO maybe like once a week, but I was like, I need something else because I get it, but I don't want to
Yeah.
feel like I'm on a loop de loo all the time. So
And then did you did you have to use any other medicine together with the cannabis to go through anything that you're going through to relate it to see how you felt differently on one or the other?
no, I mean, I'm mainly used, what they prescribed for me. And then besides just like, holistic things like ginger and turmeric and, those kind of things. And, making smoothies and drinks. I was a real big smoothie girl for a while, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And the one thing I like to say about cannabis is it's a truly a plant that can cater to anybody.
Hmm.
Depending on if you need to use it, there's a way to use it, and you don't have to put it just to smoking, or
Right.
just to eating. You know, there's all these different methods that we can get down with, which is really puts it on a good playing field for individuals and I hope gets more widespread for doctors to understand that. So,
A lot of people
man,
are taking the initiative to want to learn. Like,
yeah. So you're in it, right? You know, you've been in it through with your son. Um, you're in it, starting to see with the Marinol, and then you had to start going through it yourself medicinally, through everything you're going through. So what led to really creating culinary and cannabis? You know,
um, well, it was created out of I was trying to find alternate things for my son to use,
yeah,
uh, and couldn't find recipes that had like calculation and dosage. They had tons of recipes on there, like how to make stuff or how to make the oil, but not telling you, okay, if you use this much and then you like no calculations or anything anywhere. So I
yep,
was like, if I'm having a hard time looking for this, and I'm a pretty good detective, um, then I'm sure other people are having a hard time.
yeah,
So the mission behind culinary cannabis has always been to supply education. But getting into the space, I saw how much there was a lack of accessible information and experiences for those that are not in the industry. Like we have tons of B2B events,
yeah,
but that's like talking to the cow. Like
yep,
we know this stuff. It's the people that don't know that we need to provide them the education. And they're also the ones that are going to help to have regulations change. The people that don't know, the people that haven't experienced it, the people that, necessarily may not have had to have it used medicinally. Because I'm like, a lot of people use the plant medicinally and they don't even know that they're using it medicinally. They're just like, oh, I smoke it to go to sleep. Oh, I smoke it, because I got, bro, that's medicinally because I got back pain, because I got anxiety. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Um, so that's kind of like how I started looking for something for him.
This episode is brought to you by Waddle, the world's fastest and easiest way to review and track your medicinal cannabis products. Waddle offers batch-specific reviews, so you'll know what to stash or what to trash. It's exclusively available for Pennsylvania medical cannabis patients. Waddle helps you take the guesswork out of your cannabis journey and ensures transparency with the verified product tracking. Download Waddle now on iOS or Android. That's WODL, and take control of your cannabis experience today.
Okay. So our original mission was always to provide education for people. And for me, education through experience. Like, this plant, it can be used in so many ways. Like, I think we do an injustice by just talking about it if we can give people the experience of it, even if it's a minute amount. Like, I think there's a way for this to be an enhancement for any and everyone in the variety of ways in which it can be used. It's just feeling the right one for you. And I also have this theory of, like, we have an endocannabinoid system that we have been ignoring for years because we didn't know it was there, or we weren't educated it was there. And I think that, especially for mental health, I should say, that I think that the non-use of that cannabinoid, um, if we use it properly, I think that more people would have mental stability, if that makes sense. Like, I think that it's a part of our cannabinoid, because they all in sync together. They all have a purpose. They all have a use, um,
Yep.
especially with mental health. Um, and if not being educated on the cannabinoid system, I think that it has a lack and a depletion. And I think that's a lot of times why people that have, like, uh, psych issues, that they smoke,
Mm-hmm.
um, and that they smoke weed. Because when you're in nursing school, they do talk about, when you go through your mental health course, why they smoke. Like, they literally show you, like, a CT of, like, how the brain changes when you smoke cigarettes versus when
Mm,
you don't. Like, it's a physical and a chemical change, which is why usually, people with mental health problems are chain smokers, because it
yeah.
causes an alters your brain function. So I'm like, cannabis could be the answer to all that, but don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we
Yeah.
continue to take time.
Before we
But
dig
yeah.
deep, I want to stay on track with you, but before we dig too deep into what you just said, for some listeners that don't understand anything, here's a little crash course. Every single one of us has a system in our body. It's called the EDC, also known for the endocannabinoid system. We have a receptor in our head. We also have one in our gut. Our body is constantly craving cannabinoids. And you're going to hear this word and you're going to think that that only is going to come from cannabis, but it doesn't. There are other naturally producing things in this world that do produce cannabinoids, and we can then use that. Clause. Cannabis is one of the fastest and the most um, concentrated form of these cannabinoids that we can get. And we are getting into more and more studies, not myself, but I'll say the community wide, understanding your brain when you are lacking cannabinoids compared to a brain that actually does have a full production of
Mhm.
cannabinoids. And we are learning that there are some contrasts that go into decision making when it comes to actually plenishing your endocannabinoid system. And that's kind of what Tamara was just talking about. Um, so that was a lot for people to digest, so we'll let them do that for a minute and then we'll get into some fun stuff. Because what you constantly are saying is um, we can give people pamphlets, they can listen to podcasts, they can try to do all the reading that they want, But unfortunately, humans really have to go through an experience for them to understand something completely. Like we have to
Mhm.
do it hands on, right? And I feel like you really encompass that idea into your brand, but also your events. And I think that's what's going to tie us into this all sensory aspect that you bring to the table as well. So could you walk us through, since I'm in Philly and you're in California, I'd love to get to one of these events, but could you paint a picture to me and the guests of what do these events look like um, compared to most? Because I feel like it's different from your normal B2B cannabis event.
I mean, for one, you don't feel like you're walking into something um, that is a secret or that you're not welcome. So you feel um, very relaxed and very looking forward to like the event or the occasion. We make sure to supply the plant in many different versions, and why it's called all sensory, because literally smell, touch, feel, taste, hear, all of those things are encapsulated in our event. So, like, we have an oxygen terpene bar. So, it's an oxygen bar with terpenes infused so that you can, enhance and smell the flower. And that way, that also has a medicinal effect, right? The different
Hmm.
smells of the terpenes besides um, the terpene uses and how they affect you differently, they also affect you when you smell them, and they smell different.
Yep.
This helps you when you go into a dispensary or you go somewhere and you're looking for a specific type of effect. You can say, well, I'm looking for this. Do you have this type of terpene profile? Because this is what I'm looking for. And if you've had an oxygen terpene, you now can be like, I can smell it and pick that out because you just had the terpene on its own, not with anything else, on its own. And then making sure we have things that you can enjoy with your mouth, but not necessarily smoking. So candies, beverages, food, those kind of things that you can have. Touch, as far as like massages, facials, mani pedis, beard stings, like those kind of things. So we try to encapsulate everything, like, um, for maybe not on purpose, but a lot of our guests are not big smokers. A lot of them use the plant alternatively, but we're not saying don't, you're not allowed if you don't smoke. It just happens that it's the room doesn't smell like smoke. Like it literally feels just like, a luxury event. And at the same time, you're getting to experience the plant and learn about the plant because a lot of the brands that we have are smaller mom and pop brands. So you get to hear their story as far as like why they created the brand, why they're here, the reason why they created it. And a lot of times people find things that work for them that they may not have discovered before or even known of because we try to have a wide variety of topicals and just all kinds of anything that I could find as a unique brand. I want to introduce them to like, our world and highlight them so everybody else knows about them. But yeah, it's literally just like probably with one of the most relaxed events where you're learning, but you're not pressured to learn. Like you literally learn through the experience of what's happening around you and to you.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do you think that does creates a good bridge between like canna curious people and also like canna culture people at your events?
Yeah, because both
Yeah.
both audiences can come, right? Like if you're kind of curious, you'll feel comfortable to come. But also if you're, hardcore cannabis, you'll feel comfortable to come because it's an event that you could come and hang out with, and it's a night event. It's not a session event, so you still get to do, it's creating a space that is more mainstream so that everybody feels comfortable. Like you literally can have your grandmother come and your 20 or 22-year-old daughter come if you're like middle age, right? Like this is something you all can do together and would be surprised at like who finds what and who likes what, but everybody everybody will find something. This is the safe place where you could bring, even people that don't necessarily consume, because it's not in your face. Like, it's there, but it's not in your face, and it's not like offensive. It's kind of like, well, you have to ask, well, is that? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's in that chocolate, it's in that bao bun, it's in that, like, it's in that bath bomb, it's in that, oh, so yes.
And what do you think the importance is? So baking edibles, that's a big hurdle for some people when they're dealing with cannabis. And the biggest, I think, misconception or understanding people need is dosing, right? And how to properly dose things and what are your intentions with this creation that you're creating. How do you navigate that realm, especially in California? Because you can have some, like you said, non-users versus some very high milligram users. So how do you range that landscape?
I mean, our events are usually, first of all, intimate, so I am literally on site and accessible at all times. Um, but there's always, a caution and discretion. Like I always say, go slow and go low if this is something that is new for you. If this is your first time experience here, um, always like reach out to me, come ask me questions. I will guide you and take you to the brands that I think that you should be introduced to. Also telling you if you're consuming and if there is anything here that is, you know, THC or that's psychoactive, please take 2 to 3 milligrams. And then if you want more, wait till you get home and experiment more. If you're new, don't necessarily do this outside and don't do this in public. Do this at home and in your own space. So it's just providing them education from the time, even education before. So when people RSVP, there's instructions, and people don't always read the instructions. So we give them instructions before. We give you
Yep.
instructions while they're there. It's reiterated the whole time that you're there, to just be cautious. But we get a good variety of like people that are experienced and non-experienced. Um, and I haven't had anyone faint at any of my events.
Good.
I have had people that I've had to take to another room and put to sleep because they didn't follow my instructions.
Yeah.
Um, but it's all, and explaining to people like, just because your friend could do that, don't mean that you could do that. Because she might be 100 pounds lighter than you. She might smoke every day where you don't. So what she doing, you can't do what she could do. So we need to find out what your individual plan is and make that priority. Don't This is not somewhere you should copycat anyone.
No, not this space. Of course
Mm-mm,
not, especially not when it comes to dosing of edibles. That is
mm-mm.
always. And I mean the concentrates go hand in hand with needing education as well, but smoking can be a little more easier to navigate the dosing.
Yeah, to
Edibles, it's really
control.
down to the creator, and what they're messing with. So you with your background, your pastry background,
Hmm.
how has that been? Is that sparking like a new creative to you? Because I'm sure nursing can be a little tiring from time to time, right? So now you have a personal passion project, and how's that play into kind of your creativity and keeping that side of Tamara alive?
Well, one, this is my other nickname. I call myself the edible mafia queen. Um, I am the one at events where I see like pastries that are like 1,000 milligrams that will literally walk up to the brand and be like, "Can you take that off of your table? And why are you selling that? Like, if somebody
Yeah.
really eats that here, it's gonna be bad for all of us. Don't you want to be? I'm a terror. Don't you? You should be socially responsible. We don't know, what people's, if your friend wants to buy that, that's fine. But also, why are you messing with your money? I'm like, if somebody needs 100 milligrams to get loaded, then they need to buy 10 cookies. I was like, and you cheating yourself. You could cause somebody to have a bad experience, but also you're shutting yourself short by you're charging the same price for this 100 milligram that somebody's charging for a 10 milligram. Come on now. So either way, it's going to affect them. They're going to be, okay, I'm doing this for money that I need to change, or you want to be socially responsible. Us in this space already, we need to be socially responsible for those that are not. We need to do our due diligence in providing them safe access and information and education, because we already know they don't know. So get it together, people. That's from the Edible Mafia Queen. And then as far as like personally, those that know me and know my brand know that they can call and ask for a pastry to be made infused. But that's like on a need to know basis. Like I just did cupcakes for Shirley Jew asked me to do cupcakes for Jerry from Vibe with You. So I made them cupcakes and took them to them. But that's only because she knew to call me and ask me. Like it's not you got to know to know. It's not public knowledge, because it's not my preference. I prefer to throw events and not necessarily bake all day. Although I enjoy baking, but I don't enjoy baking for a job.
Yeah. Got it. Because sometimes that could be exhausting too. You got orders coming in. That's not a hobby anymore. That's a job.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so much physical labor. I'm like, people don't understand.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And how many events have you thrown to date?
Oh my God. We'll say maybe around 40 of my own.
Whoa. Wow.
In the last 10, maybe about 40. And that includes our tour. So we did a tour in 2022, because it was before I got sick. It was either 2022 or 2021. And we went to Oklahoma, we went to New York.
So you've done events all over. And is it just in California events, or you did events in all these other places too?
Oklahoma and Las Vegas.
Okay. Dang.
We will travel. If you call, we will travel.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And has it been getting easier as you're learning and getting some more experience putting these events on, from the first one to this one now? Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely different. I was telling one of my partners, Anna from Canna Catwalk, she helps me with marketing, and I was telling her last night, we went to dinner, I said, I'm literally starting all over again. And she was like, yeah, you kind of are, because I haven't done like my own event for 2 years. Like 2023, we had all these plans to do another tour, and then I got sick. So I haven't done any of my own events in 2 years, since 2023. So I'm like, it's literally like starting from scratch and starting over. But this time I know more than what I knew originally. So like the processes will be smoother, just things will be better for anybody involved, because I'm better. So
That's
let's
it.
go. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. And for our audience, what can we do? So we'll give it one to the culture heads. What can we do to help progress this plant in the way that you're doing it? I feel like in your community, how can people adapt any type of aspect of that and try to help their community in that way? They can't be you. You're the queen. They can't be you, but they can at least take a little bit of what you're saying and try to relate that and help their community that way.
I mean, with anything in life, be understanding and compassionate to the next person. So if
Yeah.
somebody doesn't know about the plant, but they want to know, then provide them guidance or access and education. Also, always be on your P's and Q's for me, right? Like, just because you consume don't mean that you have to look or act like what they consider the stereotypical person that consume. Like, with anything that you do, you should be doing it with grace and dignity and the utmost respect, right? So that just carries on. Like, help us get rid of the stigma that people that don't consume have, because there are tons of people out here who consume, um, and they don't necessarily look like what people think people consume look like. So those are the people that I want to come out of the cannabis closet. Like, it's okay to have the conversation. It's okay to let, people know that you're doing this, because if it's what helps you to be able to function and get through the day, then that's what it does. And somebody else might need to hear that very information and need to hear your story.
Yeah. Never judge a book by its cover, is what they
Mm-hmm.
say. And especially, if there's one thing I know, especially cannabis consumers, because we're everybody. We're your
Mm-hmm.
mom, we're your neighbor, we're your teacher, we're your grandma, we're your aunt, we're your babysitter.
We're
We're
all
the
over the
guy that
place.
just it's everywhere. And that's one thing. I started consuming this plant at 13. I probably started getting into the sales side of things a lot younger than I needed to, but with that taught me like, holy shit, I never thought these people would consume cannabis, or this person would
Mm-hmm.
ask me for cannabis, or now I'm going to meet this person for, and I'm just like, I never saw it, to my friends' parents, to my teachers while I'm in high school,
Mm-hmm.
like things like that. You would be so surprised on the grasp of what this plant can touch on. And it can really cater to anybody who's able to use it, but you got to have the knowledge to do that, and I just from one side to another, I got to say I really appreciate your time today and just giving me a little insight on what you do and who you are, and not only that, but who you're doing it for. And it's a battle, you know um
Mm-hmm.
but I'm really good I'm in this battle with you. I think that makes me feel a little more comfortable, because that's amazing for what you're doing, and just the understanding you have and the platform that now you have to help people navigate that. Um, some people that I talk to, they might not listen, but then they'll listen to someone like yourself, and that's what's so
Mm-hmm.
great about people in this space, because we need everybody to do it. It's a unified front now, and that's what Terp Trends is here for, is to show people that and relate to it, because it's important. We're not alone in this journey, especially not in this space.
Exactly.
Nice. Well, hey, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you.